he discovered that there's gold on Earth. And in order to come back into good graces, or maybe in order to survive, the evidence which I bring out in my new book, The Wars of Gods and Men, is that both he and his descendants, especially his grandson, were reinstated into some position of influence because of his discovery. And about one orbit of their planet, which is about 4,000 years, about one orbit later, when they again were in a position to come and go between their planet and Earth, a mission to Earth came from their planet. The leader of that mission is named in the text. His name, his title was Enki, which meant Lord Earth. He splashed down in the waters of the Persian Gulf, and the splashing down is described. Their garb as fishmen, if you want to use the term, is described even pictorially. He led a party of 50. They waded ashore. They found a spot at the head of the Persian Gulf. They found there, if you want to call it, Earth Station 1. They called it Eridu, which literally meant home away from home. And all the names that we have today for our planet, which in English is Earth, or in German Erde, come from that word, Eridu.
Is that right? I read it.
And then the story goes on.
Can you hold the story for just a second?
Okay.
Because we have to do something. It's fascinating. And let me remind those that are with us to get your questions ready for Zecharia. But I do want to hear the rest of that, but you know how it is around here. With Sitchin's new book, it's out on Avon. Zecharia is sitting right here with us in the studio and was in the process of giving us a thumbnail sketch, and you had me on the edge of my seat there. Continue.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So this is, Bill, how they happened to come to Earth for a purpose in search of gold. And that the beginning of that was a conflict on their planet. This is important to remember. Now, when the first efforts to obtain the gold by distilling the waters of the Persian Gulf failed, they faced the key problem of whether to abandon the whole project and thus perhaps accept their own extinction on their planet, or to resort to other means of obtaining gold.
Now, they wanted the gold to suspend in the air to form more or less a greenhouse effect over their planet. And it's amazing that the ancient Sumerians would know about a greenhouse effect.
Well, one of many amazing things.
Yes, right.
So they decided to do it the hard way, and they went into a mining operation in southern Africa. And by the way, in one of my books, I forget now which one, I do mention that archaeologists in South Africa have discovered evidence that their mines were worked 30, 40, 80,000 years ago, way before anybody we can imagine would have done that. And in order to carry out this mass-scale operation on Earth, 900 of them were sent to Earth. 600 landed on Earth, again in groups of 50. 300 operated space stations and shuttlecraft, which collected the refined ore and would then transfer it periodically to a mothership that would take it to their planet. In charge of that operation, the supreme commander on Earth was another son of the ruler who usurped the powers of Anu, and his name, his title, his epithet was Enlil, which meant Lord of the Command, Commander-in-Chief. Now the two of them, Enki and Enlil, were half-brothers. If we have time tonight, I'd like to go at some other point into this whole question or aspect of half-brothers and half-sisters, because many things that we have done or that the biblical patriarchs have done and the rules they lived by stem from that. But anyway, this fact that two half-brothers, both contending for the right to be the one to inherit the throne on their planet, that both of them came to Earth, one a scientist, a metallurgical expert, a genius in construction, to whom the construction of the pyramids of Giza has to be attributed and not to any pharaoh, and the other a commander, a military man, a tough guy. His epithet was the bull. He's even depicted as a bull.
You needed both these personalities in order to carry out this mission.
So you have these two different leaders, half-brothers, both contenders for the succession to the throne on their planet. They both end up on this small planet, and thus the conflicts, the rivalries, even the rivalry for the love of their half-sister. They both had the same half-beautiful half-sister who was the chief medical officer on Earth. All that has developed in time, we're talking about 500,000 years, into what I call the Pyramid Wars. There were two of them. One was more localized, one was almost a global war. And then this conflict, once they made peace, carried into their sons, because each one of them had a son. And then the sons were the contenders. And that contention between the two sons of the two leaders led in the year 2024 BC, precisely 4,000 years ago, to the use of nuclear weapons on Earth. So in a few weeks, actually I think it's August 6th, we would be marking what we think is the 40th anniversary of the first use ever of atomic weapons on Earth, when an atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. But it's not so. It is 4,000 years. And this is really what the new book, The Wars of Gods and Men, picks up this story from the point of view of the rivalries, because each book can be read independently, because each book tells the story, though it brings it ever closer to our time. This last book ends with the days of Abraham, who was Abraham, and what was his role in those earth-shaking events.
So the first nuclear holocaust was 2024 BC.
Right, 4,000 years ago, not 40 years ago.
Where was it?
The weapons, and there were 7 weapons. The details, Bill, if somebody would read the text I'm quoting, are so vivid. It's as if a reporter from your station, from ABC, was witnessing and was reporting. The tremendous flash, 7 weapons were used, 7 devices. The tremendous flash, the mushroom cloud, the darkness that followed the brightness, and the spread, this gradual spread of the mushroom, of the nuclear cloud, carried by the prevailing winds eastward from the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, from the Sinai Peninsula, gradually towards Mesopotamia, bringing to an abrupt end, the Sumerian civilization. It took 70 years for Mesopotamia, for the land to come out of the poisoning. The waters was poisoned, all the plants withered, all life perished. It took 70 years for Mesopotamia to be habitable again, just from the nuclear cloud, not from the explosions. Now, in the process of exploding those devices over the Sinai Peninsula, and the reason they did it was that there was a spaceport there, in the process, another area, which was considered an area of sinful cities, and why they were considered sinful is explained in the Sumerian text. That was the event of the